Let's talk about a few veteran pitchers and get you ready for week 23 next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. As always, make sure to follow and stream us on Spotify. Today is Friday, August 27th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White, and two pitchers that we were waiting a long time to return this season were Chris Sale and Carlos Carrasco. Both of them were great on Thursday. Let's start with Sale, who went 5 1/3, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts. He had an immaculate inning, the third of his career, tying Sandy Koufax. The velocity was up, and he's also up in my rankings, Scott, all the way up to SP13 is Chris Sale.
Yeah, now he's looked great in all three of his starts. The velocity was up, as you mentioned, but whether he's averaging 94 or 92.5, I don't think it so much matters with him. And we've seen that velocity fluctuate throughout his career, delivered ace results pretty much the whole time. So I'd like to see him go 6 innings sooner than later. Hasn't done that yet since returning, but coming back from Tommy John surgery, that's to be expected. I think the takeaway is that, yeah, you can think of Chris Sale as a fixture in your lineup again, regardless of matchups, regardless of number of starts he's making. He looks like he is the Chris Sale we remembered and missed.
Yeah, and it's awesome, too, to just have Chris Sale back because it's another ace. He's really fun to watch pitch. He's very unique in that regard, too. Chris Sale is back. Looks like he's in line for 2 starts next week as well. Carlos Carrasco, the other one, 7 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts. He had 12 swinging strikes on 78 pitches. Velocity was also up for Carrasco. And next week, great matchup against the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, the velocity was up more than a mile per hour on all 4 of his pitches, basically, the 4 he throws most often anyway. And seeing him go 7 innings on just 78 pitches, that was really encouraging as well against the Giants of all teams. He wasn't beating up on a AAA lineup that a lot of teams are running out here post-trade deadline. Carrasco looks like he's beginning to figure it out. There were a couple of rough starts when he first came off the IL. His start before this one was against the Dodgers, and he allowed 3 earned runs in 5 innings. It wasn't half bad, and then this one was great. So next start against the Marlins, I think it's time to get him back in your lineup if he wasn't there already.
All right, let's get people ready for week 23. Start with some 2-start pitchers. Who you got, Scott?
2-start pitchers. I like Tarek Skubal this week. The matchups against the Athletics at the Reds, those are nothing special, but his last 3 starts have been good, especially the last one. We saw him start to get whiffs again. And the walks, the control's been great for a while now, so he seems to be trending the right direction. That's the one I'm willing to advise for all leagues, the one who's available in a reasonable number of leagues. But Austin Gomber is out there in 29% of CBS Sports leagues, and his first matchup is at Texas. The other is against the Braves. But he's been on a rough stretch lately, so I would only recommend him for points leagues. Edward Cabrera is somebody you might consider. He's only 36% rostered, obviously just made his major league debut at the Mets versus the Phillies. Those are pretty good matchups. I'm not ready to trust in him yet myself. Wasn't really missing bats in that first start. Ended up walking 3, which is what we were concerned about from him. I want to see more. It's unfortunate that he lines up for 2 starts this week.
What about some sleeper hitters who are rostered in less than 80% of leagues?
So I like the Rockies matchups this week. They're against the Rangers for 3 and then back home for 4. CJ Cron, Brendan Rodgers, Connor Joe, who's been their leadoff hitter of late, good on base guy. I love all 3 of them this week. I like Frank Schwindel. Frank Schwindel. Let me say that name again. For the Cubs, he's been awesome since getting called up, and their matchups are great. Enrique Hernandez for the Red Sox. They actually have the best matchups of all this week. Those would be my favorite sleeper hitters. Just to circle back to the pitchers, because there are some good 1-start options I didn't mention. Ranger Suarez at Miami. Of course, Carlos Carrasco against Miami. He's available in about a quarter of CBS Sports leagues. Nestor Cortez against the Orioles. Willing to start him. And Eliezer Hernandez at the Mets. That's another one I'd recommend if you're just looking for 1 start off the waiver wire.
Yeah, and you mentioned a few first base eligible hitters who could be available as sleepers for next week. If you lost Reese Hoskins, he's done for the season. He's going to have surgery, something going wrong with his abdominal area. But CJ Cron, you mentioned, Connor Joe, and Frank Schwindel. So 3 first base eligible players there if you need a replacement. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. If you enjoyed the pod, please leave a 5-star review on Apple. We'll be back again on Monday. Bye-bye.